got an unbelievable show for you today. We've got giveaways not just for the audience here, but for you at home. That's coming up in just a little bit. But man, talk about a mood change. We're starting with this. It is a name that still gives you chills. Charles Manson. This is an unbelievable story. As you know, he terrified the world. He led his followers on a killing spree back in the summer of '69. After he was given a life sentence in prison, first it was a death penalty, then they commuted it, he died on November 19th, showing zero signs of remorse for the evil life he had led. Now a new documentary is about to be released about this killer. The filmmaker recorded his phone conversations with Manson a year before he died. The guy kept calling him. Here's a reminder of the backstory. Charles Manson's reign of terror occurred back in 1969. Manson and his followers, who claimed they were brainwashed by Manson, preached about inciting a race war and went on a killing spree known as Helter Skelter. On August 8, 1969, at the direction of Manson, members of his cult raided the Beverly Hills home of director Roman Polanski and actress Sharon Tate. Polanski was away, but Tate, 8 months pregnant, was stabbed to death, in addition to 4 others. The very next night, Manson joined his followers for another home invasion of grocery store owner Leno LaBianca and his wife Rosemary. The couple was killed.
Maybe I should have killed 400 or 500 people, then I would have felt better.
During Manson's trial, his followers staged bizarre protests. In 1971, Manson and 3 of his followers were found guilty of murder and sentenced to death.
There's no need to feel guilty. I haven't done anything I'm ashamed of.
He was spared in 1972 when California abolished the death penalty, but he was denied parole a dozen times after.
Any comment? Yeah, I'm going back down in a old hole.
On November 19th, he passed away at the age of 83. His life is now being examined in a new documentary, Charles Manson, The Final Words.
I never ordered nobody to do anything but what they wanted to do.
I play cards. My family's cards. My family are righteous. They can't get away. They're dead. Every one of my family is like me.
Buddy Day, the director of the film Charles Manson, The Final Words, is here with us. Also joining us is one of Charles Manson's actual followers, Dianne Lake, who is speaking out now in her book, Member of the Family, My Story of Charles Manson, Life Inside His Cult, and the Darkness That Ended the 60s. Thank you both so much for being here. So, Buddy, tell us about the first time you get the call from Charles Manson from prison.
Well, I'd met him I'd met a couple people who had spoken with him while working on a TV series that I was making called The Shocking Truth. And that kind of put the seed of the idea in my head that I might be able to speak with him. So I wrote him some letters on a whim, kind of not thinking it might be a bad idea to give my cell number to the most infamous mass murderer of all time.
It's an important consideration.
Yes. And I was filming, had wrapped for the day, was with our director of photography at an Applebee's, and my phone rang, and over the line came, "You have a prepaid call from Charles Manson," and I ran outside and took the call, and it was very surreal at first.
How many times did you speak with him total?
I spoke with him over the course of making this film for about a year. Every time he calls you, it's limited to 15 minutes. It drops out at the 15-minute mark, and there was a total of about 4 hours.
I know there was one time he called you on Thanksgiving.
That's right. I was sitting at Thanksgiving dinner with my family, and in the middle of turkey and stuffing, and my phone rang. "You have a prepaid call from Charles Manson." I had no control over when he would call me because it was completely limited to his phone time, and I took the call and said, "I'm sorry, guys, I got to take a call from Charles Manson." Ran out.
Can you imagine? So what do you think? I know what your purpose was in talking to him. You're trying to sort of get the story and figure out whether it's exactly as the prosecution told it. You had no questions he was a murderer or that he ran this group. It was a question about motive. But what do you think his goal was? What was he getting out of it?
At first, the first time I talked to him, I was transparent. I was listening to him, but challenging him at the same time. And just told him, I want to tell your story. I want to tell the untold story, not the narrative that's been continually put forth through the book Helter Skelter and at the trial. And he was reluctant but open. I think he was somewhat interested that I was not kind of part of this mainstream media. I was working with Reels. They're independent. They're not part of a conglomerate. And so I was able to kind of take a different approach.
Did you feel like you were speaking to evil?
I wouldn't put it that way. I mean, he was able to, in a strange way, I was able to talk to him on a human level. I just spoke to him like a person. He seemed to respond to that. Sometimes he would be rambling, sometimes he would be very coherent, but he seemed to respond to the idea that I knew what I was talking about and I was challenging the conventional narrative.
Mm-hmm. Dianne, he reeled you in. Your parents basically let you out in the world at 14 without any responsibilities on their part. He found you. How did it begin?
I was invited to go meet him with two of my friends and walked in, and the two of the girls jumped up and said, Dianne, Charlie, Dianne is here. I was shocked. I had no idea that they knew me.
So you were 14, he was 34, right?
I think he might have been 33. I don't know.
But there was, it began as sex, which was non-consensual, obviously, on your part because of your age. But was it a seduction in the beginning?
Definitely a seduction, yes.
And what was he like?
When I first met him, he was playing the guitar, and the girls were, listening to him, rapturously. And he was just very playful. He offered me, the rest of his root beer. And
then it became abusive.
And then the abuse, was sprinkled throughout, and it got incrementally worse and harsher.
You remember the Manson family coming home after the murders and bragging about them. She had nothing to do with the murders, we should make that clear, and bragging about them. I mean, there's no doubt in your mind that they were committed in a brutal fashion, and that there was zero remorse.
Exactly, yeah. They didn't tell me the day that they got back. It was, maybe a week or so later.
And what were you thinking while they're describing?
Shock and awe. I could not believe that these people that I had spent, the last 2 years with, or the last, year and a half anyway, that they could take Charlie that seriously. It's like, oh my gosh, they took it to that level.
Mm-hmm. He maintained, Dianne wound up testifying against the other family members for the prosecution. He maintained to you that this was not about starting a race war. That was one of the suggestions, that he had wanted the followers to start a race war. He claims that's not true.
Yes, that's something he maintained right up until his death. It was something he was adamant about. The idea that the helter-skelter race war was something that was manufactured by the prosecution to more easily convict him. There is an alternative theory to the murders, and it's something that we explore in depth in the documentary, not just on the word of Charles Manson, but in speaking with every other first-person account we could get there to corroborate anything that he may have said.
Well, you were there. I mean, Dianne,
I was there.
You were with the family.
Yes.
Do you believe it was about starting a race war, or that he believed one was coming?
Yes, most definitely.
Why? Why do you believe that?
He'd been talking about this race war from the very beginning. And he'd learned about this from his, time in jail and reform school. So he'd been hearing this for a very long time. But when the White Album came out, the Beatles' White Album, and at that point he was, I think, psychotically delusional about himself being like the second coming of Christ. He used to tell us, his name, man's son, that he was man's son. This was all prophecy. And when the Beatles album came out, he would tell us, this is the four prophets. They're telling me about the race war, and it's helter-skelter.
How did he get the actual family members to commit the murders? I mean, because he claims everyone did what they wanted to do. I never ordered anybody to do anything.
How did he get them to do it?
I think that they were all, we were all under his kind of spell. How they could have done that, I don't know. I don't think I'm sure that I could not have done that, nor was I ever asked. But it just, I think the delusion, and there had been, with Gary Hinman, there had been some issues, and Bobby was arrested in his car. And so there was kind of this idea, and I don't have, specific, evidence, but was it a cover-up? Did they do these other crimes to cover up
Other crimes?
the Hinmans?
Okay, but let me ask you this before I let you go. Is it true that you're arrested, because you were arrested too, you were part of the family, that your arresting officer went on to become your stepfather? The man who raised you.
He took me as a foster child.
And you completely changed your life.
Yeah, well, before that, I mean, I was made a ward of the court.
But you went on to get married, to have a family.
Incredible. I've been incredibly blessed, and I owe it, to the grace of God that got me through that valley of darkness, and lived to tell the tale. And hopefully it's a cautionary one.
Thank you guys both so much. Charles Manson, The Final Words, will air Sunday night on the Reels channel. Dianne, thanks to you.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.